As South Dakota's public media network, SDPB serves everyone with transparency, integrity, and commitment to open access. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB helps shape South Dakota's future by educating, informing, and inspiring the next generation of thinkers, leaders, and creators. SDPB. Good, useful, and full of wonder.
Good morning. Welcome to the Joint Committee on Appropriations. I'm Representative Mike Derby. I am the lead co-chair this year along with my co-chair Senator Otten. And as we do every morning, we'll start out with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll start that.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you. I'd like to welcome our internet listeners and those of following us on South Dakota Public Broadcasting. Just a reminder, please make sure your cell phones are off. And lobbyists must be wearing the badges for the organization they're representing. And any testifiers must sign the guest register, and Pages can help you with that. All testimony and questions will be addressed through the chair. At this time, I'd like to ask the Secretary to please call the roll.
Senators and Representatives, Ms. Gimmons.
Here.
Auk. Here. Casson. Here. Moore.
Here.
Billhauer. Here. Carly.
Here.
Boyda. Here. Jorgensen.
Here.
Howard. Here. Foster.
Here.
Sharda.
Here.
Mucky. Here. Zickmund.
Here.
Colbeck.
Here.
Norstrup.
Here.
Lapke.
Here.
Otten.
Here.
And Derby.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. And do we have any? Yes, Senator Billhauer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to approve the minutes of Monday, March 2nd, 2026.
Motion by Senator Billhauer, second by Representative Mucky to approve the minutes. Discussion on the motion.
I haven't got the bill list, and we approved bills for, or budgets for, what, 5 different departments yesterday?
That's correct. We approved South Dakota Retirement System, Governor's Office, School and Public Lands Investment Council, State Auditor. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. This time we'd like to have the Pages please come up front and introduce yourself. Tell us where you're from, what your future plans are, and maybe your favorite hobby. Hi. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. My name's Claire Cordell. I'm from Gettysburg. I plan on either going to Mount Marty or USF and double majoring in theology and psychology or sociology. And my favorite hobby is either reading or hanging out with my dog.
Very good.
My name's Isla Rohde. I'm from Sturgis, and I'm going to be a pilot.
Oh.
I like studying theology, going outside and hiking, and playing piano.
Great. Have you had any lessons yet?
I have. I
Flying
soloed
lesson?
this last summer.
Really?
I did.
How long does it take to get to solo? How many hours?
I was at a program for 2 weeks straight, so it was a little quicker for me. I have about 13 hours.
Is it easier to take off or land?
Take off.
We're trying to land a plane here too, so we might need some advice. Thank you. Welcome. Okay, are there any introductions, personal privileges, or announcements? Okay, seeing none. We are going to move into budget setting. We've got a number of budgets today. We will take them in order. Department of Military, Department of Veterans Affairs, Secretary of State, Department of Tribal Relations, Department of Game, Fish, and Parks, Bureau of Information and Technology, and the Governor's Office of Economic Development. So we are going to start with the Department of Military.
Mr. Chair, Bill Douglas, LRC staff. On the screen is a budget motion sheet for the Department of Military. The only changes are the governor's recommended changes, and on line A5, there's a change in unutilized FTEs and authority.
Okay. Is there a recommendation?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I recommend
Senator
we
Lapke.
approve the governor's recommended budget and line item A5.
Second.
We have a recommendation. Is there a motion?
I can make a motion. I make a motion that we accept the recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Would you please read the motion?
Mr. Chair, I've got a question. If we could go back up to the top.
Okay.
Okay, I understand. So I'm good to go. Let's go back to the bottom, please. Thank you.
Representative Northrup.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to set the budgets for the Adjutant General, Army Guard, Air Guard at the levels detailed in the Department of the Military motion sheet, which includes $7,172,173 in general funds, $26,903,675 in federal funds expenditure authority, $49,254 in other funds expenditure authorities, and 116.4 FTEs.
We have a motion by Representative Northrup, seconded by Representative Mucky. Discussion on the motion. Seeing no discussion on the motion, Secretary, please call the roll.
Senators and Representatives, Ms. Gimmons.
Aye.
Auk.
Aye.
Casson. Moore.
Aye.
Vilhauer. Carly.
Aye.
Boyda. Jorgensen. Howard. Foster. Sharda.
Aye.
Mucky.
Aye.
Zickmund. Kolbeck.
Aye.
Northrup.
Aye.
Lapke.
Aye.
Otten.
Aye.
Derby.
Aye.
18 yeas.
Motion to hereby set the budget for the Department of Military hereby passes. Moving on to the Department of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Chair, Bill Douglas, LRC staff. On the screen is a motion sheet for the Department of Veterans Affairs. The only changes are the governor's recommended changes plus line B5 to reduce unutilized FTE authority.
Senator Lapke.
Mr. Chair, I recommend we approve the governor's recommended budget and line item B5.
Representative Northrup.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I would move to set the budgets for the Veteran Benefits and Services, State Veterans Home, State Veterans Cemetery at the level detailed in the Department of Veterans Affairs motion sheet, which includes $5,729,521 in general funds, $3,421,837 in federal funds expenditure authority, $7,261,787 in other funds expenditure authority, and 142.2 FTEs.
We have a motion by Representative Northrup, seconded by Representative Mucky. Discussion on the motion. Seeing no discussion, Secretary, call the roll.
Ms. Gimmons.
Aye.
Auk.
Aye.
Casson. Moore.
Aye.
Vilhauer. Carly.
Aye.
Boyda. Jorgensen. Howard. Foster. Sharda.
Aye.
Mucky.
Aye.
Zickmund. Kolbeck.
Aye.
Northrup.
Aye.
Lapke.
Aye.
Otten. And Derby.
Aye.
18 yeas.
Motion to set the budget for the Veterans Benefits and Services, State Veterans Home, State Veterans Cemetery at the level detailed in the Department of Veterans Affairs hereby passes. Thank you. Moving on to the Secretary of State.
Mr. Chair, Bill McDonald, LRC staff. On the screen is the motion sheet for the Secretary of State's FY27 budget. The only change is an increase in federal fund expenditure authority related to county-held Help America Vote Act funds that was recommended by the governor.
Senator Lapke.
Mr. Chair, I recommend we approve the governor's recommended budget for the Secretary of State.
Representative Northrup.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move to set the budgets for the Secretary of State at the levels detailed in the Secretary of State motion sheet, which includes $1,596,365 in general funds, $2,276,000 and $143 in federal fund expenditure authority, $1,118,294 in other fund expenditure authority, and 17.6 FTEs.
We have a motion by Representative Northrup, seconded by Senator Voida. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion on the motion, Secretary, call the roll.
Ms. Skimmons,
Aye.
Auk,
Aye.
Casson, Moore,
Aye.
Vilhauer, Carly,
Aye.
Boyda, Jorgensen, Howard, Foster, Sharda,
Aye.
Mucky,
Aye.
Zickmund, Colbeck,
Aye.
Norstrup,
Aye.
Lapke,
Aye.
Otten,
Aye.
Derby.
Aye.
18 yeas.
Motion to set the budget for the Secretary of State hereby passes. Thank you. Moving on to the Department of Tribal Relations.
Mr. Chair.
Hold on. Mitch Honan, LRC staff, there are no recommended changes to the budget for the Office of Tribal Relations.
Thank you. Senator Lapke.
Mr. Chair, I recommend we approve the governor's recommended budget for the Department of Tribal Relations.
Representative Norstrup.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move to set the budgets for the Office of Tribal Relations at the level detailed in the Department of Tribal Relations motion sheet, which includes $896,969 in general funds, $196,000 in other fund expenditure authority, and 7 FTEs.
Motion by Representative Norstrup, seconded by Representative Mucky. Discussion on the motion. Seeing no discussion, Secretary, call the roll.
Ms. Skimmons,
Aye.
Auk,
Aye.
Casson, Moore,
Aye.
Vilhauer, Carly,
Aye.
Boyda, Jorgensen, Howard, Foster, Sharda,
Aye.
Mucky,
Aye.
Zickmund, Colbeck,
Aye.
Norstrup,
Aye.
Lapke,
Aye.
Otten,
Aye.
Derby.
Aye.
18 yeas.
Motion to set the budget for the Office of Tribal Relations hereby passes. Thank you. Moving on, Department of Game, Fish, and Parks.
Mr. Chair, Jocelyn Jessup, LRC staff, the only changes in the Game, Fish, and Parks budget were recommended by the governor.
Senator Lapke.
Mr. Chair, I recommend we approve the governor's recommended budget for the Department of Game, Fish, and Parks.
Representative Norstrup.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move to set the budgets for the administration, Secretary of Game, Fish, and Parks, Wildlife Informational, Wildlife Development and Improvement Informational Budget, State Parks and Recreation Development and Improvement, Snowmobile Trails, informational at the levels detailed in the Department of Game, Fish, and Parks motion sheet, which includes $6,241,574 in general funds, $34,846,000, 556 in federal funds authority, $91,714,484 in other funds expenditure authority, and 583.9 FTEs.
Motion by Representative Norstrup, seconded by Representative Mucky. Discussion on the motion. Seeing no discussion, Secretary, call the roll.
Ms. Skimmons,
Aye.
Auk,
Aye.
Casson, Moore, Vilhauer, Carly,
Aye.
Boyda, Jorgensen, Howard, Foster, Sharda,
Aye.
Mucky,
Aye.
Zickmund, Colbeck,
Aye.
Norstrup,
Aye.
Lapke,
Aye.
Otten,
Aye.
Derby.
Aye.
18 yeas.
Motion to set the budget for the Department of Game, Fish, and Parks hereby passes. We are going to recess at this time and take a 15-minute recess. Thank you.
SDPB brings you closer to your government. With gavel-to-gavel coverage of the South Dakota legislature and in-depth reporting from Pierre. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. From early learners to lifelong students, SDPB inspires curiosity through trusted educational programs and resources for every stage of life. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. When South Dakotans need reliable information, SDPB is there providing updates and coverage that keep our communities safe and connected. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB celebrates South Dakota's student athletes with live coverage of SDHSAA state championships, sharing the excitement of hometown heroes. SDPB, good, useful, and full of wonder. From choir to debate to theater, SDPB shines a spotlight on South Dakota's talented students through SDHSAA All-State Fine Arts Programming. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. Every day, SDPB connects South Dakotans with stories that inform, inspire, and bring us together. SDPB, good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB is your home for fact-based journalism, connecting South Dakotans with news they can trust and stories that matter. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. From children's programs to in-depth documentaries, SDPB sparks curiosity and lifelong learning in every South Dakotan. SDPB. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB brings South Dakotans together, telling the stories that unite small towns, big ideas, and the people who make our
Welcome back to the Joint Committee on Appropriations. We are in our budget setting process, and the next budget to set is the Bureau of Information and Technology.
Mr. Chair, Mitch Honan, LRC. There are several budget units here before you. You will see a number of recommendations that are part of the governor's recommended budget, and then there are 2 lines on this budget in this agency that are part of the right size of authority, other fund, and federal fund, and FTEs.
Thank you. Recommendations, Senator Lapke.
Mr. Chair, I recommend we approve the governor's recommended budget and line items D3 and F3.
Representative Norstrup.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Yes. Representative Norstrup.
Mr. Chair,
What's the matter?
I would move to set the budgets for the Enterprise Platforms and Infrastructure, Agency and Application Support, Technology Operations and Communications, South Dakota Public Broadcasting, BIT Administration, State Radio Engineering at the level detailed in the Bureau of Information and Technology, BIT motion sheet, which includes $11,124,221 in general funds, $80,330,146 in other fund expenditure authority, and 388.5 FTEs.
We have a motion from Representative Norstrup, seconded by Representative Monkey. Discussion on the motion. Senator Carly.
We have a substitute motion.
We have a substitute motion.
A substitute motion to deselect the line item D2 to provide additional funding to SBPB.
We have a substitute motion by Senator Carly, seconded by Senator Howard. Discussion on the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, we received on our desktops today a letter from 30 executive boards from counties all over South Dakota, alerting us to the fact that SBPB should not receive more than the $5.6 million they already receive. This line item is to add an additional $296,000 to their budget. They're requesting this because the federal defunded some of the SPBB broadcasting this past year because they found that it was highly biased, particularly towards the Republican Party, and even some to the Democrat Party. And so I don't think we need to increase their budget. Last year, Governor Noem proposed a $2 million reduction, and even in that, SPBB was on comment of saying we can still get by, even with that, with the Capitol broadcasting, with additionally with the alert system they have. So even with $2 million reduction, they were able to still do the core things that we appreciate of SBPB. So I think we absolutely don't need to be giving them more budget when the federal government just cut, saying, hey, you have content on your state programming that has NPR and other stuff that's very biased. They have some immoral stuff they air on their programming as well. And so I'd just ask that you stand with this motion to not add another $296,000 to their existing $5.6 million budget.
We have a substitute motion, additional discussion. Representative Norstrup.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would ask the committee to resist the substitute motion with a no vote and move on. Thank you.
Further discussion on the motion. Senator Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I urge your support of this motion. I mean, there is a reason that President Trump took away some federal funding from public broadcasting. I think we need to support that. I think we need vast majority of us are Republicans. These are executive boards of the Republican Party stating concerns about the broadcasting, and I think we need to I know my constituents vastly would prefer that we kind of force South Dakota Public Broadcasting to weed out the woke agenda that they have, some of the program that they have, and focus on what we do appreciate and what we do need, which is the capital broadcasting and other services that they provide. And I know you guys have heard me say this before. Other states do this. Ours could do this as well. They could have a subscription service to cover some of the services that they provide. That would be a user fee. And what is wrong with asking people to pay for the services that they are being provided, rather than shifting that burden onto every other South Dakota citizen? So,
Any further discussion on the substitute motion? Senator Vilhauer.
I'm a no on this. I believe the good senator from Piedmont, you said there were 30 different counties. That means there's another 36 that we have not heard from. I know where my people back home in Cottington County stand, and they would not go along with this substitute motion.
Representative Mucky.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also urge resistance to this motion. If we're going to discuss political affiliations, I want to dissuade you from that conversation today. This has nothing to do with our political affiliations. What this does have to do with is, as we saw reductions to Friends of Public Broadcasting to provide open government services to us for free. This is a big part of why we saw this fund swap brought forward, and that was discussed in committee. So this will help us make sure that we're maintaining open government going forward for our state. I urge your resistance to the substitute motion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Casson? No? Any further discussion? Any further discussion on the substitute motion? Senator Carley?
Yeah, any chance we have public testimony on this?
No. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Representative Jorgensen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't even know where to start. First of all, this letter, I guess, went around February 9th. I didn't see it until today. We have process and procedures, and my understanding is that we have separated out the funding for their programming with the funding for other things like the network, the safety network. And I'm very frustrated that this shows up last minute. It feels like an ambush. I feel like there's not enough people here to be able to be prepared and to speak on this. We did have a deadline for motion sheets last Wednesday. The date of this letter is February 9th. So I believe in process, and I said this last year. I ran to appropriations to get my motion sheet in on time, because one of the reasons we delivered early last year is because we had great leadership that went through the process and asked for no surprises. And I don't want to see public broadcasting have this kind of programming. My understanding is we're not paying for this programming. I don't want to pay for it, but they do have other services like open government and other things that they do for us. So I think for the good order and for moving forward, I am a definite no, and I may agree with what is trying to be done here as far as going forward and taking a closer look at what we fund and what we don't fund, but springing this on us last minute is inappropriate, and so I am a no. Thank you.
Further discussion, Senator Howard.
thank you, Mr. Chair. With all due respect, this is part of the process. There would not be a motion sheet to bring regarding this. This is a process. You would deselect what the governor's recommendation is on this. That is a process. And this isn't a surprise. We knew about this fund swap from the very beginning of session. So this is the point in time in which we would deal with that. We would deselect the governor's recommendation. That is the process. So I'm asking you to we're going to be looking at this with several other agencies. Are we going to go along lockstep with everything the governor recommends? Maybe, but maybe not. And if we disagree, the way to do that is to deselect the line item of that recommendation. It's not to bring another motion sheet necessarily. So, thank you.
Any further discussion? Senator Carly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, this wasn't a surprise at all. We had public testimony about 4 weeks ago from South Dakota Public Broadcasting as well as the public. They brought this exact item up. In fact, they wanted more reduced because of some of the content that's against the party that's shared. And so it wasn't a surprise at all. And even this letter, I see someone emailed this to all the legislators on this panel over the past couple weeks as well. So there's been very good, robust discussion of this. I recall we had, some lengthy discussion and debate 3 weeks ago when we heard BIT originally. And so, yeah, I think this is following the exact process. This is the day to decide on this. I hope you will support the motion. And we've got county chairs that are reminding us of what they already told us. So thank you.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion on the substitute motion? Secretary, call the roll.
Ms. Gimmons.
No.
Auk.
Pass.
Casson.
No.
Moore.
No.
Vilhauer.
No.
Carly.
Aye.
Boyda. Jorgensen.
No.
Howard. Foster. Sharda.
Pass.
Mucky.
No.
Zickmund.
No.
Colbeck.
No.
Norstrup.
No.
Lapke.
Aye.
Auk.
Aye.
Boyda. Sharda.
No.
Otten.
No.
Derby.
No.
5 yeas, 13 nays.
The substitute motion hereby fails. And we're back to the original motion. Is there any further discussion on the original motion? Okay. We're back to the original motion. Would the secretary please call the roll?
Aye.
Auk.
Aye.
Casson.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Vilhauer. Carly.
No.
Boyda. Jorgensen.
Aye.
Howard. Foster. Sharda.
Aye.
Mucky.
Aye.
Zickmund.
Aye.
Colbeck.
Aye.
Norstrup.
Aye.
Lapke.
Aye.
Otten.
Aye.
Derby.
Aye.
16 yeas, 2 nays.
Thank you. The motion to set the budget for the Bureau of Information and Technology hereby passes. Moving on to the Governor's Office of Economic Development.
Mr. Chair, Drew Kuipers, LRC staff. Changes here for the governor include recommendations for accounting and audit services and a reduction of $20 million in federal funds.
Recommendation?
Mr. Chair, I recommend we approve the governor's recommended budget for the Governor's Office of Economic Development.
Representative Norstrup.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move to set the budgets of the Governor's Office of Economic Development, South Dakota Housing Development Authority, Informational, South Dakota Science and Technology Authority, Informational, Ellsworth Authority, Informational, Ready Grants, Local Infrastructure Improvements, Economic Development Partnerships, South Dakota Housing Opportunity, Workforce Education, at the levels detailed in the Governor's Office of Economic Development motion sheets, which includes $7,523,560 in general funds, $12,260,941 in federal funds expenditure authority, $69,014,861 in other fund expenditure authority, and 124.3 FTEs.
Motion by Representative Northrup, seconded by Representative Mucky. Discussion on the motion.
Can they roll that back to the top? Okay,
Senator Otten?
no, I'm good now.
Oh, okay. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, Secretary, call the roll.
Ms. Gibbons.
Aye.
Auk.
Aye.
Casson. Moore.
Aye.
Vilhauer. Carly.
Aye.
Boyda. Jorgensen.
Aye.
Howard. Foster. Sharda.
Aye.
Mucky.
Aye.
Zickmund. Colbeck.
Aye.
Northrup.
Aye.
Lapke.
Aye.
Otten. And Derby.
Aye.
18 yeas.
Motion to set the budget for the Governor's Office of Economic Development, South Dakota Housing Development Authority, South Dakota Science and Tech Authority, Ellsworth Authority, Ready Grants, and so on and so forth hereby passes. Okay. Is there any, thank you very much. Is there anything else for the good of the cause? Anything else? Staff? Okay, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Representative Lapke.
I move that we adjourn.
Motion by Senator Lapke, seconded by Senator Voida. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
SDPB brings you closer to your government. With gavel-to-gavel coverage of the South Dakota legislature and in-depth reporting from peer. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. From early learners to lifelong students, SDPB inspires curiosity through trusted educational programs and resources for every stage of life. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB.